You know, theoretically, this film does take place in the same universe as Death Proof, meaning Stuntman Mike from that movie could possibly be friends with Cliff Booth from this film. Kurt Russell's even in this movie, so Stuntman Mike could have a twin brother or something. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the 9th film from director and writer Quentin Tarantino. Yes, Kill Bill is one movie. Please stop asking. And this film follows Cliff Dalton, an actor who is typically known for his work in TV westerns, and his stunt double Cliff Booth. Together, they try to navigate the landscape of 1960s Hollywood and try to stay relevant in the ever-changing industry. Quentin Tarantino has always been a favorite director of mine, ever since I saw Pulp Fiction back in that prime middle school age, and I thought it was the coolest thing that I'd ever seen. Since then, I've become a big fan of Quentin Tarantino, and now I'm a proud purveyor of every single directorial effort from him thus far. And definitely going into this movie, this kind of seemed like the perfect match for Quentin Tarantino, someone who has definitely on screen shown his love for films from the 1960s and the 1970s. He's shown that not only in nearly every single movie that he has made, but also in his real life, being the owner of the New Beverly Cinema in Los Angeles, a movie theater that frequently shows older prints of classic movies. Obviously, being an era that Quentin is clearly in love with, that is something that immediately shines through with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is the love for the city and for this time period. In lots of ways, some more overt than others, Tarantino displays his clear fascination with this era in Hollywood and in history. And as is common with some of his films, this movie does portray actual real-life characters like Bruce Lee and Sharon Tate, among others. But like Inglourious Basterds, this film takes real-life events and kind of looks at them through a Tarantino lens and kind of goes back and rewrites history in his own special way. And this idea works especially well in this film, considering Sharon Tate is one of the primary characters of this movie, who I feel kind of serves as a ticking time bomb if you know the fate that she eventually had. But unfortunately, I do feel that this film focuses on its infatuation with this city so heavily, sometimes too much so, that the narrative of this film is often overshadowed by this fact. And out of all of Tarantino's movies, I would say pretty easily this is the least plot-driven film that he has made thus far. Most of the events in this movie are brought about not necessarily by a central conflict, an antagonist, or really any character decisions. Instead, this film primarily focuses on the setting that the story takes place in and Rick Dalton's character journey, which in a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, I would be lying to you if I said that I wasn't at times wondering where this movie was headed. And like I said, this film doesn't necessarily have a conflict that keeps this plot going. Yes, the characters in this movie do have and feel conflict, but I wouldn't say that it necessarily perpetuates the narrative forward. Instead, as viewers, I feel we are more often relegated to kind of just being perceptors of these people and of this very specific and very unique point in history, something Tarantino is very clearly interested in. And as a result, I feel in a lot of ways, this is Tarantino's most self-indulgent film that he has made thus far. It seems like he is either inviting the audience to share his appreciation for this time period or just kind of displaying it for people to see, which I think in a lot of ways could potentially work. I don't inherently have an issue with this film doing that. I would have just preferred for this film to not only appreciate the setting that it takes place in, but I would have preferred for this film's narrative to have a bit more agency to it. I think this has been accomplished in movies like The Nice Guys and Boogie Nights, movies that, yes, I know take place in the 1970s, but you get my point. And it is strange because out of all of the directors working in Hollywood right now, I do feel that Quentin Tarantino is a director that if anyone was able to make a movie that was mostly driven by dialogue and characters, it would be him. This is a guy that has literally made a career off of people having conversations. Some of my favorite sequences from his filmography are as simple as a group arguing over a tip, or a couple guys discussing what a European hamburger looks like. But unfortunately, I don't feel that this movie's dialogue is as airtight as some of his other films in his filmography. There isn't a sequence like Inglourious Basterds in this movie. There isn't a dinner sequence like in Django Unchained anywhere to be found throughout this film's duration, which again, I think can be a problem considering this film's runtime, which, although not unusual for for a Tarantino movie I do feel can be noticed when watching this movie. But thankfully, one of the best things by far in this movie, and something that kind of elevates it to another level, are the performances that this movie has to offer. Primarily from its two leads being Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, who are both excellent in this movie, and between the two of them, they both give some of my favorite performances that I have seen from these two in years. And although they aren't in this movie together as much as I would have preferred, I do think that they kind of carry this movie on their shoulders. And I would say overall, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a film that, like its director, has a deep love for Los Angeles and the time period in which this film takes place. But because this film lacks the pop and the style that is drenched in each and every one of Quentin Tarantino's films, I don't really see myself remembering or rewatching this film near as much as I do with some of the other movies that he has written and directed. So did you guys see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you liked today's video. And if you did, you can click on the link down below and subscribe to my channel to see more movie reviews and movie related things. And guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.